Hello, everyone. There is a silent revolution going on in African agriculture with a lot of hardworking, passionate, energetic young people getting involved in the sector. In this series of talks, I am going to talk to some of the most innovative young farmers in Africa. Really excited about this, and I hope you can join me on this journey. I'm excited to join you once again. It's a pleasure to have a very special guest joining us all the way from South Africa. I will invite our guests to introduce themselves. Hello, who do we have here today?
Hi, you have Guguletu Mahlangu all the way from South Africa.
All
Nice
right.
to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are things in South Africa? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Things in South Africa are the weather is nice and warm. We're getting into our summer season, so it's quite exciting. Everybody is feeling excited, ready for the festive season.
Excellent. Things the weather in the UK is not as pleasant. It's cold, windy, but I think that's typical UK, something to complain about. I'm really interested in what you do. Tell us a bit about yourself.
So I'm an aquaponics farmer, meaning I grow food in water as opposed to traditional farmers that grow food in soil. And what's really cool about aquaponics is that we incorporate aquaculture and the fish give us free fertilizer. So we're working in a very symbiosis nature where we are growing two for one. We're growing the fish, we are growing vegetables, and I particularly focus on our indigenous southern vegetables and herbs that I also sell. And I have an online shop where I make innovative products from our aquaponics produce. So, yeah, that's what I do.
That sounds busy. Have you always dreamt of being a farmer?
No, I have not always dreamed of being a farmer. I think farming came to me during the course of my journey in life through loss, through disappointments, through being in a position where I needed to reevaluate a lot of things. And farming came to me and I grabbed it with both hands because in my mind, I always felt like farming was this picturesque activity where you live in this beautiful house and you see the sunset and you do yoga. So I had a very picturesque understanding of farming, and that's why I was drawn to it. But once I got into the industry, I realized that it's a lot of work, it's commitment, it needs you to be in it for the long haul. And the fact that I've persevered to now, you know, is a testament for me to know that I am actually very in love with the independence that farming has given me.
That's a very romantic story about farming. And I know that some of the people who will be listening to this conversation may be young people like you and I guess I'm still young, who are very interested in agriculture and in farming. Can you talk to us about your background? How did it all come about? Where did you go to school?
I studied agriculture, so I have a BSc agricultural science
Okay.
degree, and I have been capacitated by big companies. I've got a qualification with a university on African agribusiness as well. And I was always doing soil farming. So when I decided to formalize my business after, doing it really informally, making mistakes, having to travel, looking for land, and all the preparations that I was doing in my pursuit to be a farmer, I stumbled upon a farm that I started leasing in Johannesburg. And when I got that farm, it was COVID-19 pandemic and we all experienced it. However, I was lucky enough that my business thrived under COVID. And as a result of that, I got profiled by the media, just to show people farming and what people are doing during COVID. And the media company that came to profile me on the farm that I was leasing, they did a story on me. And maybe just to give some context, the farm that I was leasing had like a water reservoir, it had shade nets, it had tunnels, and it also had fields where we were planting our vegetables. So I think they took an aerial view showing the farm when they came to profile us, and then they uploaded it on social media. But when they did that, they said under their caption, aquaponics farmer in South Africa. And mind you, I was not doing aquaponics. I was growing spinach. I was growing Harvard squash. I was rotating my spinach with bush beans. I was doing field agriculture. So up until today, I actually do not know why they wrote aquaponics farmer. I keep trying to piece everything together. Like, well, maybe they shot an aerial view, and because there's a water reservoir, there's JoJo tanks. Maybe it looked like aquaponics. It looked like maybe the reservoir had fish in it. I don't know. So that's my story. As a result of that interview, I got profiled by German investors that were looking to invest in an aquaponics farm in South Africa. And I decided to pause my business because even though we were up and running, I have to admit that I made a lot of rookie mistakes and I got into debt naturally. Actually, as a first generational farmer, you are bound to experience this. But I believe that, well, let me pause my business and go work at this aquaponics farm and join these people, because at least I was going to get a salary and I would be able to recuperate my debt. So let me pause my business. Let me go find out what this aquaponics thing is about. And so I went to work for this aquaponics farm. It was the biggest in Southern Africa at the time. And I fell in love with aquaponics. And I fell in love with aquaponics. I worked there for a year and I realized that this is what I want to do. Sometimes when you get into farming as a first generational farmer, you're very excited about a lot of things because agriculture offers you a lot of possibilities. You could be a herb farmer, you could try flowers and you could like it, and you could try incorporating mixed farming and have some livestock, and you could love that. So you need to find your stream in agriculture, especially if you don't have come from a generation where you have been growing one single commodity and you're so good at it. If you're still trying to find your feet, you will be attracted to so many things. But when I found aquaponics, I was like, I want to do this because it's modern, it's smart. And mind you, when I was in Johannesburg farming my spinach, we experienced frost. It was one of the coldest winters that we had in the 1 year after COVID. It stressed me out. I got into debts. Things didn't go as planned because Mother Nature is Mother Nature. And when I experienced aquaponics, where you are under a greenhouse, you are protected from Mother Nature, you are able to still continue production throughout the entire year. You are able to enlist technology that allows you to know what is happening in your water in real time. For me, it was just this modern system that appealed to me. And I was like, this is the type of farming I want to do. This is the future. And I want to be a part of it. So that's my story.
Wow. And I think it takes a lot of courage for anybody to go into any enterprise, not least agriculture, because of all the uncertainties that you mentioned and all the challenges and the learning that one has to do. Did you just woke up one morning and took a trip to the bank and said, hey, I have a fantastic idea. I want to start a farm. Give me money to start the farm? Because I think for most of us, the issue of land and where to find land and the capital to start the farm is often quite a daunting challenge, especially when you are not a second generation farmer and you are just starting off. How did you overcome that challenge? How did you go about it? The whole issue about capital to start farming for you.
I get asked that a lot. And I wish it was a very simple answer, but it wasn't a very simple answer. But now I think, we are moving in times where agriculture is getting a seat at the table. Banks are starting to come to the party to offer tailored grants, offer blended finance to really support farmers. But before that, it was a very challenging experience. So my story is that I had an amazing grandmother who taught me gardening, who showed me self-sufficiency, even though she was in the townships. I don't know what that would be equivalent to in the UK, but townships in South Africa are a result of the apartheid system. So I'm from Ghana, by the way. So how about your African brothers? So we are in the same continent, so we understand each other. Exactly. So, in the townships, it's a very small space. And every time I used to visit my grandmother during school holidays, I just realized that we were always fed. And mind you, my cousin and I, when we used to visit, there'd probably be 10 of us in a small RDP house. And we loved it though. We had the best childhood. But growing up with a grandmother who always fed us, I can say that I don't want to say I took it for granted. I just didn't understand it because as a kid, you just expected it. But when she passed away, all of a Sunday, we could no longer eat. We were now in a position where we are like, we don't have food. We can't feed everybody here. We can't feed people who come to visit. And that is because when she passed away, her garden passed away with her. It wasn't maintained. It was a thing of, oh, wow, this used to be grand space. Now let's bulldoze it and add a room that we can rent out to somebody else. And that really broke my heart because I realized that she was self-sufficient. She wasn't a millionaire, but she was self-sufficient. And I think she planted a seed in me in terms of agriculture. And I took that with me and I ran with it because I realized that if you're not self-sufficient as a human being, you will crumble when the systems collapse. You will crumble when there's COVID-19. You will crumble when inflation rises and you have to now focus on paying debts and paying for your house and paying for your car and not have enough money for food. Just a simple understanding of a home garden is how you can be a self-sufficient human being. And at that point, like I mentioned before, I had romanticized agriculture. So in my mind, I felt like, oh, wow, you know what? My grand had a little garden. I want this big farm and I'm going to produce food. It was ambitious, but that's how the seed was planted for me. So when I told my family and friends that I wanted to do agriculture, they definitely supported me and they gave me I would say, my first grant for me to go and start this business. But mind you, I did not have any mentorship. This was just a dream. And I felt like it's so easy and simple in my mind. I was like, how hard is it to just plant a seed and let it grow? And also, land is a very controversial topic in South Africa. I also didn't have land to make mistakes. So I did so many things. I went to rural areas where communal land is free. I stayed in so many different parts of South Africa with my friends, that I met in university. They were like, oh, we have land at home. Come, during the holidays, I used to go there just so that I can put in my 10,000 hours and get experience. So that's what I did. And from then on, experience came with people and relationships that I started building. And people are like, okay, you're the same girl who used to come here and ask us for seeds. You're the same girl who used to come here and ask us for land to rent or ask us to give you a small space. Then people started taking me seriously because of my persistence. Then people told me, okay, cool, well, start something. And once you start something, start selling. And then people will take you seriously. And that's what I did. And then I remember I got my first grant and it was 50,000 Rand and I was over the moon. And it was from a pitching competition.
Okay.
And then I started attending all these incubations where you would win cash prizes. And I used to attend a lot of them. And that's how I used to accumulate capital. And then the government also kind of delayed in giving us vouchers for COVID. They gave it to us a year later, but we'd also got money from the government as well. So for me, it was a hustle in the beginning because uh, I wasn't a bankable business. I was still a person learning the ropes.
Right.
And yeah,
Yeah. Go for it. Go.
so that's how I got capital through incubation programs, through pitching competitions, through family and friends. And then, of course, I decided that, well, it is time for me, after I got my aquaponics experience, I was like, okay, now I'm changing my business model. I am now chasing aquaponics farming. And by the time I was starting to speak on aquaponics, the banks had started coming to the party with agriculture and they were looking for innovative ideas around water, food, and energy.
Okay.
And yeah, that's how I managed to survive and
Right.
get capital.
That's an incredible story. You sound like a very strong woman, wouldn't you say?
I think I'm strong when I need to be. In general, I'm very, very relaxed. I'm very
It's
chilled.
a
I
lot of
love.
ambition. It's a tough terrain. And when you were recounting your story and all the different pieces of the story, like your grandmother, a little bit of family support, learning, making mistakes, it does take quite a bit of strength to navigate that, wouldn't you say?
I think it takes youth. You know, when you're a youth and you're excited about things, it didn't feel like work at all. It felt like, you know, me basically going after what I want and knowing that I'm gonna get it. And and that's why sometimes, when I'm invited to speak, I always tell young people that you have the energy, use it for your future. Because that's what I did. I mean, I used to travel, I went to homelands, I left the comfort of my hometown. I've moved provinces. I've met people, squatted at people's houses. I've built businesses. I've created a team. I've, leveraged on relationships that I've built along the years. And all that requires energy and excitement because, I was building my business. So I think, honestly, when you're young, you are able to do these things. And I'm not old, but I'm not in my early 20s either.
Right. So would you say that would you the passion and the youth in your view is really a key ingredient for success in agriculture? You think that's something that they should leverage quite aggressively?
I think it's the only tool they have and they need to use it for the better. I mean, as a
Okay.
young person, you have all the time in the world. You have all the excitement and, the world is
Yeah.
your oyster basically. So use it to really fill up your ambitions and, drive you to whatever you want to do. There's nothing stopping you at all. And if you're a person who's not young and who doesn't have the energy, then lead with your strength, lead with your commitment and dedication. All these things that you would have acquired. That's what keeps me going now. I feel like it's determination. I feel like it's still the fact that I'm in a sector that I actually love, that I enjoy, that is so rewarding. Agriculture is a long-term game. You accumulate money
Mhm,
over time. You accumulate assets over time. Even your soil accumulates over time. It gets better and better if you treat it well.
mhm,
So you're in a game where you're trying to leave a legacy for your children,
mhm,
or you're trying to leave a legacy for whoever buys your farm to be able to
mhm,
continue feeding the nation, which is what
mhm.
you're doing.
You are a practitioner. You have that intimate relationship with the soil, with the water, with the land. When you look into the future, should Africa be hopeful in terms of food security?
Africa should not only be hopeful, Africa should start getting prepared because Africa is the breadbasket of the world. So it's like instinctual for us to want to work our land already. It is already in us. So we need to not only be hopeful, but we need to start getting prepared because we have the land, we have the resources, we have the capabilities, absolutely. And we are blessed to be in a continent of riches and one of the best climates ever, you know? So when it comes to food security, Africa just needs to get itself prepared.
What's your long-term vision for your business? Are you hoping to run the largest aquaponic farm in Africa, potentially the world? What's the long-term vision for your farm?
You know, my long-term vision is that it self-runs, whether it's the largest aquaponics facility, whether it's a small aquaponics facility that's multiplied in different places and parts of the world. I am open to all those possibilities because it is possible. But my only wish is for it to self-run. You know, if I decide to sell the business or if I can no longer, farm, God forbid, I would like to just have planted the seed for other people to continue growing food, continue feeding our people, continue being self-reliant, self-sufficient. So for me, that's my long-term vision. And if I have done that, I think I'm complete.
Okay, well, that's very insightful. I did notice that you do a lot of social media. How did that come about? Is that the new trend now for young farmers to leverage the power of social media and to communicate with the world? Can you give us a bit of insight about that from your own practice and experience?
I think when I started posting on social media, it wasn't really a trend. And when I started posting on social media about agriculture, it got me a lot of media attention. It got me a lot of support. You were asking me how I got capital. You know, when you go to these pitching competitions and you're a young person, you can refer them to your social media and say, I've been doing this for a year. I've been doing this for 5 years. So now it's definitely a trend, or I look at it as a lifestyle, which I'm very excited about because people are now showing you their mistakes, which you can now learn from. I didn't have that opportunity, but now people are sharing on social media the highs, the lows. People are sharing opportunities. So we are now getting into a space where social media is key to communicate to the world whatever your message and passion is in agriculture. And I've definitely leveraged that. It's my favorite thing to do because I love talking. We could have this podcast for another hour. I love talking about agriculture. So, social media is definitely an outlet for me. And I haven't been as active as I used to be, because of a lot of things that I'm doing on the side, but it's still one of my favorite things.
I I would have mistaken you to be some type of a communications expert because you convey your ideas very succinctly. So kudos
Oh,
to you
thank you.
for using media and all the expertise that comes with that. I really like all the people I talk to communicate directly to a young African listener who has an interest in following your path and going into agriculture. What would be, from your experience, the most important advice that you would give them?
I think they need to know that knowledge is still power, no matter what happens. Knowledge is still power. They need to educate themselves. They need to make mistakes. Farming is about your experience, and you can only be as good as the work you put in. So no matter what happens, we live in a world now where, people feel like posting only glamorous photos of what they're doing and, not necessarily living that life, but just, posing as if you're living that life. So don't look at that and think, oh, wow, this is going to be easy. Look at that and say, okay, cool. Let me put in my 10,000 hours. Let me do the work that no one else seems to be wanting to do. So for me, I would tell the young people, get to work, make those mistakes, have fun. I wish I had like my friends and we were farming, we were planting cabbages and they all drowned and we laughed about it. We waited the next season and we did better. So experience is still the best teacher, and do what no one else is doing. Do that hard work. And I'm telling you, as a young person, you will shine because you have the experience, you have the youth, you have the capabilities, you know what you're talking about. You can be placed within big spaces, international spaces, and represent Africa. So that would be my advice.
Wow, I'm very much inspired. Thank you so much for spending your very busy afternoon with us. Your story, in my view, is one of passion, of commitment, and I think of endurance to a very large extent. So thank you. I'm pretty hopeful about the future of food security in Africa, and I'm sure a lot of young people who listen to our conversation will draw a lot of inspiration from your very amazing story. Thank you for coming
No,
today.
thank
Really
you so
appreciate it.
much. Thank you for having me, Albert, and enjoy the rest of your day.